as any 27-year-old would do. You'll go out to get drunk, let your hair down and get drunk. So I'd arranged a night out with my friends, and it was just a local club bar in South London in Clapham called the Two Brewers. It's just a really fun sort of bar where they have like a cabaret show on, and the more drunk that you get, you sort of migrate to the back of the venue where they have the club area. So we got to the club because we were drunk, and we're lucky we got a nice seated area to the left of the bar, which is looking down onto the club floor, which is great. Sat down, had a round of drinks ready, and then a friend pulled out a small bag of ketamine, said, "Who wants some ketamine?" Now, ketamine, for those of you that don't know what ketamine is, it's a prescribable drug that we use regularly on intensive care. It's a sedation drug. It's also a painkiller, but importantly, it causes amnesia. And that's quite an important component of this, because far from what I had was memory loss. So we've had ketamine before. It's passed. You have it off a key, like you have a quick snort of a key. So I had a tiny amount of this key, and within seconds, bang, I'd hit the floor. I was out. I didn't know this at the time, but I was instantly transported to another realm. I was suspended in this huge coliseum. I mean, it was absolutely massive. And I was suspended in the air, and either side of me was these huge columns. Coming up to the coliseum, there must have been about 1,000 steps. I have no idea. It's difficult to say. The place was just so huge. So I had 360-degree perception. And I had this dominant presence behind me. And if I hadn't had this 360-degree perception, I would have assumed that my back was against one of these columns, because that's just how dominant it was up there. And another interesting point of this realm was the light. It was just this incredible bright light. So even I talk about this Colosseum, it was still made of light and energy. So it's not like in Rome, you've got this beautiful Colosseum. So it's like that in terms of the shape. It's made of light as opposed to marble. Again, it's very difficult to explain. The only way that I've learned how to explain the light is when you're in the science classes and you have a prism and you shine a beam of light through the prism, and then the other side, you've got this whole rainbow that comes out of it. So I was seeing that simultaneously. You have this beautiful light everywhere, but there's color within the light. It's the same, we've got a pearl within an oyster, a pearl in an oyster. It's that beautiful white color, but there's a color within it. So you're just seeing that simultaneously. This was the energy around me, this beautiful white light. And then in front of me, there were 4 beams of energy, and I knew instantly who they were. And the energy, they were like vibrating at a frequency that, they all looked so similar, but I just knew who they were. So the first 3 beams of energy that were in front of me were the 3 children that had died on the ward that week. 2 of those children were infants, and the other one was a 3-year-old girl. But I knew instantly who they were, and I knew everything about them. Nothing to do with their earthly life, just everything about them and their spiritual journey at that time. The communication there is beyond telepathy. It is just, you get this information, this knowing straight away. It's just this connectedness that is just amazing. And it just makes so much sense when you're there, that everything is just connected by this energy, this light. So that was the 3 beams of light initially that I saw. Then there was the 4th beam, and I'm talking about this as in it was a chronological order, but everything just happened simultaneously. You just get it all in this one go, but I'm just trying to narrate it in a way that's understandable. The 4th beam of light was my best friend, and the communication with him was very different to it was with the three children. It was, of course, absolute joy. We couldn't believe that it was like seeing my best friend in this energy form, no physical features at all. It's just this beam of light. And it was like we had that joke, and we were bantering straight away, because on his earthly plane, he was the biggest atheist, wasn't spiritual at all. And I always was, and he would always joke to me about, so that I had this, never knew this really existed, but I always believed there would be something else. And he just joked like, yeah, you're right, look, there really is something here. At that same time of having that connection, he took me back to Earth when our last memory together. I was very fortunate to be in the hospital hospital ward with him when he died in the room. If you've ever been when someone's died, or even when a child is born, it's an absolute privilege to be in the same room with somebody when they've died, or when a baby's been born. It's a very similar feeling. So I was there when he'd passed, and I just remember I looked up to the corner of the room. I couldn't see him, but I just spoke to him to say, look, if you are okay, just show me a sign, let me know that you're okay, you moved on. But he showed me this memory from his perception. So I could see it from where he was actually on that corner of the room, and he could see me talking to him, even though I couldn't see him at that time. And again, it just took me back. He was just showing me, look, I'm okay, don't worry about me. Everything's good. Because I had that thought of Earth, and he took me back to that time and saw myself, I then had the realization that, well, was I dead? Because I was then in this room, which was totally calm. It was very peaceful out there, and it just felt so normal. But then I had the realization that I was dead, and I then had the thought of my family, thinking like, oh, well, how did I die? I was in the club. I must have died in the club. Like, how, it's how embarrassing. It's not ideal place to be dead. And then with that thought, I thought about my mother, and I was catapulted straight back to the club again. Now, when I went to this realm, it was in an instant. It was a flick of an eye, a flick of the switch, I was there. But on the way back, it was still the speed of thought. I mean, it was incredible speed. But I remember coming through the club and through the bar. We had a wooden bar area there. I remember going through the actual wood and just seeing all the intricacies and the splinters of that wood. I was out on the floor at this time next to the bar. And my consciousness was trying to get back into my body, but it wouldn't go in straight away. It wouldn't just pop straight back in. It was like undulating back and forth from my body into the bar again. So I kept seeing the wooden area of the bar, the splinters, and all that scum that accumulates around the bar. I could see it in the greatest detail, but it was so stressful because I knew I was dead. I could see that I was dead by the bar at this time, and I just couldn't get my consciousness to stay within my body. Eventually, the consciousness, I don't know how, it sort of popped back into my body, and I just sat bolt upright, and I was just like, I was dead. I spoke to Brendan, and my friends all knew the situation that I'd been through, and they could see that I was totally shocked, but I was absolutely elated that where I'd been. I thought I must have been gone for 3 weeks. I'd gone for a wonderful eternity. I just couldn't believe that my friends were saying, I stood in the club that you've been gone for 15, 20 minutes. It just didn't make sense to me at all.